Hello. This video is about the cycle of boom and bust and how it never benefits the poor. Rich people are secretly fallen angels. They depend on a cycle of boom and bust around the world. Their civilizations have been found around the world in cultures that cannot support them on their own, that collapse when they leave. So what we have is a group of people who go around the world utilizing the places which they haven't yet destroyed. Wherever they go, they build up wealth, and that's not a good thing because they just have a war and collapse the place and then move on to the next victim. There's evidence of this, even of nuclear war tens of thousands of years ago, at least in India, where there's a field of glass on the ground that couldn't have been made any other way. And it's radioactive as well, supposedly 10,000 years after the bomb went off. It's about 15 miles wide and would have been a bomb about the size of Hiroshima or Nagasaki or whatever, or maybe bigger, but it did end up making the ground turn into glass for about 15 miles. So it would have been a pretty big bomb. There are legends of it in the ancient Hindu writings. You can research this yourself if you want to, because I don't want to make a video just about it, obviously, because this is not what this video is about. Basically, these beings just keep building up civilizations and competing with each other and having fights and wars with each other, and then killing each other off and abandoning the wreckage that they've created of wherever they were. You might think, well, at least they're rich for a while, at least we get to live good for a while. No, not really, because without them, people might actually be better anyway. In two ways. First of all, they could, without disturbance, possibly build up a civilization of their own. Even if it weren't so splendid, it would still be an okay place to live. If we look at around the world, we may find such examples. Well, I don't know really. Places that have been left alone for a while, say the Middle East. There's a lot of fighting there, but people do have, even on their own, they have basic structures and a basic lifestyle. I know Islam invaded them, but I mean, that is another fallen angel thing, really, another evil fallen angel thing with all the violence in it, all the beheading and the killing even of children and all the things that you could go on about, child marriage and FGM and that. But you could look again to Mexico, where they have a basic, traditional lifestyle, like adobe houses and wattle and daub and things like that. It may not be very high tech or anything, but the people there it's a reasonably okay way for people to live, and they don't get nuked in the end. You might think that's a hard lifestyle, but it's also very rewarding. A lot of people would like to go and live that lifestyle, including me, really, because you get a lot of being in touch with nature. You get a lot of exercise by nature just to live the lifestyle, because it is some hard work. There's a lot to it, a lot of good things to it. Even in other places where people just live with nature, like the Aborigines in Australia or the people in the rainforests who live in tribes in the rainforest, they still are actually happy. They're still by nature happy. I mean, before they get messed up by fallen angels who have taken on white forms, having fallen in the Middle East, which was white when they fell. They now want to keep their genetics pure, which means that they want to keep them how they were when they fell. So they're going to look white because that's what those are the people they interbred with when they fell, because they fell in the Middle East area. They fell in the area of Israel and Jordan and places like that, and Iran and Iraq, places like that, in the Middle East. And so they want to keep their genetics pure, so they look white now. But those people drag others around the world, building up civilizations with them, and then using them as much as they can till they get so awful sometimes people throw them out, like India threw England out, threw the UK out. But basically, they're just horrible people. And even whether or not they lead you as far as nuclear war, they make a whole lot of abusive societies that steal the inhabitants' freedom and enslave them and work them until they, until they've got everything they can get from them, or until they get chucked out, and then they move on to somebody else. So, and this is just a basic nasty mentality, really. And I think it goes all the way back to biblical days when the fallen angels fell. I think they're fallen angels. So I think we should actually identify these people ourselves, because if they're keeping together in a group, which will probably be royalty and its followers, whether they know it or not, they're in with that bad lot, and they're Satanists, whether they know it or not, and hence very bad for us. That we ought to identify that group, who should be easy to identify since they know each other. They are a group, and they're probably the royals around the world. Those who stem, I don't mean chieftains, I mean, well, maybe it extends to such people all around the world. But I'm talking really about the more concentrated bloodlines, which are probably white royalty. And if we identified them and got rid of them, we may find we've got rid of the whole problem in reality in the world, because we may actually get rid of the fallen angels' remains. Don't forget, the Bible told us to get rid of them. In the Bible, God tells the Jews to wipe out 2 or 3 countries of people because they had fallen angel blood in them. They were giants, and the giants came from the fallen angels. So he was actually wiping. He wasn't doing some crazy genocide like the giants are telling us now, as they've taken over the world more and the media more and everything, and are telling us their lies again now. They weren't innocent people that God massacred. They were fallen angel remains. And some of them escaped and were driven to Peru and a place called Paracas. Look up the Paracas skulls on YouTube. You'll find out some extraordinary things. People who don't look anything like humans. They had brain capacity nearly twice the size of a human. So they would be about as different from us as we are from chimpanzees. Chimpanzees have a brain about half the size of a human being. And these beings have brains that are nearly twice the size of a human brain. So they're very different from us. And that's why they were able to create these extraordinary civilizations, which whatever people tell you today, they're probably lying for the Paracas, by the way. They're probably lying for the fallen angels. A lot of people still are remaining who have this DNA in them. And they don't want to be discovered, so they're lying about it. They will be the ones who will tell you, of course we can make these things. Of course we could make them if we wanted to, but we don't want to. And we're not going to spend all that money proving that we could do it, because it would cost a fortune. So of course we're not going to do it. But what they really mean is, maybe they could do it, but they don't want to identify themselves anymore because they know we'd kill them off. Or these days, they're still trying to get power and want people to be interested in aliens, and a lot of people are, and see them as saviors rather than seeing God as a savior. So, maybe these days they would want to be thought of as aliens or whatever, but their agenda at the moment is not to be thought of as aliens, and they don't even want to admit aliens exist. So they, or demons or fallen angels or whatever. So they're just literally denying the existence of such things and saying that, of course, human beings made the pyramids. But human hybrids may have made the pyramids, but human beings didn't. So what we have is Nephilim hybrid, demon, fallen angel hybrids. Nephilim demon, fallen angel hybrids, called the Nephilim in the Bible, before the word is translated into giants. running around the world, going around the world, building up civilizations which are a threat to each other, so they then attack each other and wipe each other out. And without them, we would be a hell of a lot better off. We would be able to either live our own peaceful, happy lives, or we would be either able to live our own peaceful, happy lives, or to even if it's not to a very big extent, it would be happy and peaceful, and we wouldn't be wiped out in nuclear wars, or have wars every 50 years, or every 100 years, or every 20 years, or continual wars like in the Middle East, where people fight just every few years virtually. We would have human-type lives that we had before the fallen angels fell, before all this trouble started. And well, the Bible says we would go back to how it was in the beginning. And in the beginning, it was a Garden of Eden. It was an absolute paradise. And you might say there are only 2 people then. I don't know how many we'd finish up with, but I think that we may have a third world war. And it will be because of these people fighting each other. They build up hugely advanced civilizations and end up exploding them. All the way up to there are wars now and then, endless killing, endless so-called histories, which they're proud of, which is the history of their warfare and their family. It's like Prince Charles has said openly, why do the people want a history? They have his history, they have his family's history. Why would they want a history of their own? Their own history is a miserable little history of being exploited. Why would they want a history? People started wanting a history of people's history a few years ago, and he said, why would you want, he said openly, why would the people want a history? They have a miserable little history. Why don't they want his family's history, which is glorious? So all these wars where people were killed, they think of as glory. It's like Jesus says in the Bible, they are lovers of discord. Discord is fighting. They're lovers of fighting. The ancient, the middle-aged knights used to fight to the death for fun. So did the Vikings. They're lovers of discord. So basically, we need to identify them and get rid of them. We might even be able to do simple germ warfare. Just target their genes and set the germs free, and they can find them wherever they are and kill them off. We should have a program of every Saturday or Sunday, everywhere we go on our days out, spraying a little bottle of fallen angel killer everywhere we go until they're got rid of, or something like that. We should have some little program every 10 o'clock every morning. Out comes the misty spray. Everyone's at work doing their work, or most people are, and then the sprays just spray a little until after a few decades, hopefully, or however long it took, we got rid of them, or at least got them out of our lives, and track them, just keep tracking them down wherever they are until hopefully one day we'll get rid of them. But the thing is that even at a low level, people who keep getting everything for themselves, getting all the money and power to themselves, these are the people who are the problem. And then they have fights with each other to keep each other down so they don't take over each other, because they want to be the boss. They don't want to be taken over. It just keeps building and building up until it eventually ends up in gigantic genocides. And we all get killed, and they don't care about that. But they do want to use us. They need us to use us, so they can't really wipe us out because they need us for slaves. They don't want to wipe us out because we're slaves to them. So they will go round and round the world, because there's evidence of this in gigantic temples, big fancy temples all around the world, which are no longer really upheld much, because these people have moved on to being rich in New York City or something, or rich on the stock exchange. They are white people. They go around the world doing this kind of thing, and then abandoning the civilizations when it suits them. At the moment, they're all in rich places in the world, living in skyscrapers, or living on fancy ranches, or living on yachts and around tropical islands or something. Anyway, I think they will be a permanent danger to humanity and will bring about the Third World War unless they're dealt with. And I think they're planning to bring it about anyway, because the societies they've built are now stagnating, because they just I think they would probably like to build up. No, they really want to have one world, and possibly to as the Bible says, to bring about their Antichrist. Really, they would probably just like to be the Antichrist themselves. Really, there are a lot of. There've always been apparently people who could have been the Antichrist, and today there are probably a lot of people who would like to be the Antichrist. So what we have is a lot of people seeking power and willing to fight for it, and possibly going to bring about the Third World War. After the Third World War, they plan to start enslaving people again. But this time they hope there will be a winner, an overall global winner. And they will enslave humanity as slaves forever in a final global empire that one of them will rule. Well, we need to get rid of them. And part of that, the biggest part of that is having faith in God. The most important thing, in fact, the only thing really is to have faith in God. I should really just make this a have faith in God video and pray to Jesus video and pray to God video. Ask for help and mercy and things like that, and good health, because you'll need it in the times to come. Good health, mercy, God's protection, things like that. And praise God and thank Him for everything He does for you, and all the food that you have every day, and so on. And just develop a close relationship with God, because that's what will really get us through. But basically, in the time ahead, these people, I think, will bring about the Third World War, and there will be complete chaos, obviously during it, but also afterwards, because they want everybody completely worn out, just literally worn out, and begging for any help they can get. And we have to just keep going all the way through that until Jesus gets here. So some people apparently, according to the Bible, a lot of people are going to fall on the way and take something called the mark of the beast. They used to teach this at school when I was a child. They don't even teach the Bible anymore. After the Third World War, or even before or during it, who knows, but certainly after it, people will be offered a cashless money system, and they won't be able to buy or sell anything by law unless they have this mark on their hands, right hands or foreheads. So don't take this mark. It's a mark for a cashless society. Apparently it's got a symbol in it, or the number 666, or a name. And it's basically it's a symbol of the Antichrist. And if you take that symbol, you will go to hell forever, and you won't be allowed to survive. You won't be allowed to, you will go to hell. You won't survive among the human population again. Not at the end of all this. And it's not very far away either. I think it's still within my lifetime. So it's not very far away. And I advise you to, well, really, I think God Jesus is coming back to get rid of these people. These Paracas types, these Nephilim, fallen angels, descendant hybrids, descendant of the fallen angels, aliens or alien hybrids. And at the end of it, we will just be left with human beings. And no more of these exploitative and aggressive fallen angels and their hybrids. And they will be in hell. And humans who have a right to this planet, who are put on this planet by God, and who are good people, will be the ones to survive. So yeah, pray to God and expect a lot of trouble in the near future. Expect chaos and just, terrible chaos, like in the mouse experiments, where mice were given everything they needed except space, and put in an enclosure, and they just traumatized. In the end, they were so numerous, they just traumatized each other into extinction, and they all died. And even those who didn't kill each other off were so traumatized, they just they didn't reproduce. They didn't live a normal life. they just died off of old age, really, which is being traumatized to death, really. They just experienced so much abuse. They just died off. And so what we need to do is just be prepared for what these fallen angels are going to bring about, which is complete chaos, and accept it as not rather than finishing off in the mice experiment. Things will end positively for us, fortunately, because we're not in the hands of scientists who are professional atheists and possibly Satanists, as so many people in charge of society are. And we are in the hands of God instead, who is a good being. And so if you're a good person, according to the Bible, which is a book of prophecies and how to survive the end times, if you're a good person, you will survive. But you need to hold on to God, hold on to your relationship with God, including when the fallen angels turn on Christians, precisely because they are holding on to God and not going to the side of evil. And keep praying. Pray every day. And when these things get really bad, the worse they get, the more you should pray, because that is what will help you to survive. Okay, so thank you for watching. Bye.